How's it, Orchids and Fynbos friends? Dave here with another chilled and relaxed greenhouse tour. So today it's a sweltering hot day. It's a 40 degrees Celsius here. For those Fahrenheit peeps, it's around 104 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm literally melting in the greenhouse. I've just had to give the orchids a mist down because the heat is pretty excessive for them. I have quite a lot of things to show you guys, and we'll start over here with this Stenoglottis Maclachlinii. So this is a South African species that I recently got from Kirstenbosch Nursery. Stenoglottis, generally found in South Africa, KZN side, and then also into Zimbabwe and upwards into the lower parts of Africa. So this one, as I said, is a Maclachlinii. Some people say it's a different form of the Stenoglottis woodii, but it's an absolutely beautiful little miniature thing. So those of you who don't know about Stenoglottis, they are deciduous orchids. So for most of the year, they spend their life like this. This is currently one of the Stenoglottis species that is dormant at the moment. Then they shoot out growths and end up looking like this one over here, which is my Stenoglottis aquarius, which is a Stenoglottis sparkle by Fimbriata. Then they'll shoot out a flower spike at some point. This one I think is a later blooming species, so more in autumn for this one, whereas this one seems to be an earlier blooming species. If you want to see more of this little guy, especially the beautiful blooms close up in a macro shot, you can check out my Instagram channel. That's Orchids and Fynbos. I posted one recently. Next I want to move on to this beautiful Sherry Baby over here. This one's in spike at the moment, and we'll expect to see around the autumn some beautiful flowers on this one again. Pretty large spike, as you can see. Excited to see this one back in flower and to smell the beautiful blooms. I don't often go down to this table over here, so let's start over here. This is my Sarcocailus, quite a nice plant. This one also blooms in the spring. It's doing pretty well. Pretty happy at the moment. Really like this one as well in the blooms. I received this one the year before last at the spring show for the Cos Orchid Society. Here is my Blatilla striata, going into dormancy slowly at the moment. As you can see, some dieback. Then this side here we have the two Dendrochilum cobianums. This was one plant that I've divided into two. All the phalaenopsis at the back that I have in the greenhouse, they do very well in the greenhouse. And then the Maxillaria sanguinolenta and Maxillaria triloris. This one has a very beautiful flower. I also think I got this one last year, mid last year I think. Then back to the top over here we have the Insidious catatante Kilomi, I think it is, still in bloom, coming to an end at the moment, as you can see. See if we can zoom in on those beautiful flowers. There you go. Beautiful flowers. Right next to it though, as you can see in bud, we have the Insidious Tropic Painter, Jungle Monarch, but the Tropic Painter variety, which is a 4N clone. The Insidious catatante featured in my last blooms video, so check that one out if you want to see this one in its full glory. Up here we have some, see if the light's good enough. Up here we have some Dendrobiums, the Maniliforme, and then I always forget this one, my Findleyanum. So it's supposed to be an oculata variety. I haven't seen it flower yet. I just got it late last year. But yeah, hopefully it is the oculata variety. My leafless orchid doing wonderfully over here. This is the Microcoelia excellus, doing pretty good. Lots of new root growth. Don't know if you can actually see this, but if you look closely over here, the apex of the plant is not completely leafless. You'll see these little nubbins right at the apex of the plant, though they're like little, they look like scale actually. Those are actually the leaves, so not completely leafless. And then, in case you didn't believe how hot it was, my phone actually overheated. But let's get back to the video. Next, I'm going to move on briefly to the Cattleyas. So this baby over here, the one that I always say I'll run into the fire for, I'm pretty excited about, has 2 new growths at the moment. I was a bit sad I had not one of the growths off the last season, but it actually put out another one, so 2 in there. Very excited about that. Lots of new bright orange blooms to come. Then over here, I don't know if you guys have seen, you've seen this in one of my orchid unboxing videos. This is from G&S Orchids. It is the Cattleya Clandiae. Really happy to have this one in my collection, and it put out a new growth over here this year, so doing pretty wonderfully. It's a bit of a weird, awkward shape. I think it was mounted before, but now that it's potted and everything, it will send down its roots downwards, and the leaves should go upwards with the bright light it's getting in this condition. Next, another one I'm very excited about. This one now has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 growths on it and 1 new growth. Hoping this one sends out a flower this year. Just have to see. This is the orchid I picked up at a bargain. I think it was 10 Rand. That's not even €1. So really cheap. I don't think the person knew what it was. It literally just had 1 cane and was sending out a new pseudobulb at the time. So yeah, really excited to see what this one is. It's doing wonderfully. A few more new growths over here with a few other varieties. This one's a Laelia, I always forget this one, Laelia autumnalis. Then we have another cross over here, RLC cross, beautiful new cane, new pseudobulb. Here is my Cattleya leopoldii, which you recently saw in the blooms video. Working on some new pseudobulbs at the moment. We have the BC Micai, and if you can see in here, if I can get in there, looks like there might be something. Let's see if we can get in closer. Looks like there might be something in that sheath. Not sure, but looks like a bit of a leaf, but there might be something swelling up in there, and it is a pretty fat pseudobulb, so that will be my first blooming if it does bloom. Not sure about that though. And one that I'm always worried about in this position, because obviously it's very hot in the greenhouse, this is the Paphiopedilum, the purpuratum, but year on year puts out new growths. You can see there, I was quite excited when I saw that new growth. It flowered for me this year, as you would have seen earlier. Last year I should say. And yeah, really happy to see what this one putting out a new growth, and love the mottling on that leaf. Yo, beautiful, really beautiful. We have the stunning Epicatleya Rene Marquez with 2 new growths. Really love the color on these leaves. Stark maroon color. As you can see, new root tips, growing root tips, which is always something very important with your new growths. Really stunning. Some more African species over here. These are the polistakias. We have the Zuluensis, which is a little seedling at the moment. Got new growth again, so very happy about that. This one, species I think, also forget the name, Ottawana or something like that, I forget which one it is. But it's white ones, it almost looks like snowballs. Very pretty and beautiful scent it fills the greenhouse with. Then moving up and to the left, we have all the deciduous plants. So these are my 2 Catacedum types. This is the Fred Clarkiara. So obviously We're in the southern hemisphere, so they've been coming out of dormancy at the moment. And nice fat pseudobulb growing over there. Plump, plump, very happy. So what I always do is I put it into a self-watering system. See the water down there? I always put it into self-watering when it comes out of dormancy. So I start a bit of spraying with water, misting, and then eventually watering the plant, and then into the self-watering. This one over here is my Sun Valley Orchids Rebecca Northern. As you can see, beautiful, plump pseudobulbs and a nice new growth. Very, very happy. This one's always also in a kind of self-watering. There's perlite at the bottom, which forms a reservoir with sphagnum on top that the orchid sends its roots through. So yeah, just love those sheaths and those hair-like roots, and those plump bulbs. Very, very pretty. Something I forgot to show you this side, which is quite an epic one I forgot because I was meaning to show this in this video specifically. I don't know if I can show the size of this. My Lycaste. Look at those leaves. Look how beautiful they are. Sorry if you're someone that doesn't like to see lots of pictures of leaves, then really apologize, but this, I love this. Look at that. It's really epic. And the size of that thing, it's massive. Here's my hand on one of the leaves. Massive, massive, massive. Okay, we're going to take a bit of a mosey on down to the cool area, the lower part of the greenhouse, where all the bulbophyllums and the other orchids are. You can see my Angraecum sesquipedale. A number of you would have seen the potting video I did recently. I think it was a care collab, so take a look out for that one. It was posted a few months back. Look at those beautiful roots. Really, really awesome. So this one will take off wonderfully now. Not concerned about this one whatsoever. That root is going to go into the pot. I'll make sure of that. I'll make sure about that, and it will do well. Back there we have the bulbophyllum medusia. Haven't seen that one flower this past year. Here is a new acquisition that's been on my wish list for ages. I had this plant about 3 years back, some of you might have known. This is the bulbophyllum acranthum. I think this one's the albiform. I just love the alien look to the flowers. So yeah, I'm really excited to have this one. This one came from Iconov Orchids in the Cape, and it is in epic condition. Then we have quite a number of these phalaenopsis pulchris. You can see there's one there. That was a baby of this plant. This plant is actually not one, it has 2 or 3 plants at the bottom there. Then we have Keiki Mania over here. 2 keikis on that flower spike. Another spike with 1, 2 keikis. A flower spike on the other keiki with 1 keiki at the moment. As you can imagine, this one is a keiki making machine. Lots of orchids from this one. The surprising thing is it still continues to flower, which is awesome. That's the main aim of the plant, to get it to flower. So I'm just happy that it still flowers for me. It doesn't just produce keikis, which is another story when it comes to dendrobiums. Moving down to the floor of the greenhouse. Just pause, weed out. Another orchid I purchased recently from Kirstenbosch Gardens is this Petersonii. I was very excited to have this one in my collection. Like the bulbophyllum acranthum, this one has been on my wish list for a long time. You guys would have seen the Kirstenbosch video I put out, I think it was 4 years ago or something, with the Petersonii flowers in the conservatory in Kirstenbosch. So that's what got me started on this beautiful species. We have 2 new growths over here. I suspect they're new growths they may be flower spikes. They do come from the base like that, but I really think they're new growths. In this section of the greenhouse at the bottom over here is part of the cool growing area, but I also have this as a little bit of a sick bay for certain orchids, not the ones that are diseased, those go outside the greenhouse, but the ones that are really struggling to put out new growths or have got heat damage or something like that. I generally put them here to kind of give them a lot less direct sunlight and lower heat so that they can recover. You would have seen and you would know about my issue and story with Microcoelia. So you can see at the back there the Microcoelia sits here. This is the coolest area of the greenhouse that it can be nice and happy in. Story you guys don't know about, it's pretty sad, but my Francis Fox, Microcoelia Francis Fox, got a fungal infection and I had to cut off about 3 or 4 of the pseudobulbs or whatever, most of the pseudobulbs at that point in time, or half of them, sorry. And it managed to survive. I was pretty happy. I thought this one was going to not, but this division also survived and is now putting out a new growth. So I actually have a division. This one will be pretty set back because it's only got 1 cane and a new one. This one, however, was a lot better. It had 2 canes and has now put on a new one for now put down a new growth. So I expect this one to recover in the next year or so. So yeah, sorry, no Microcoelia flowers in the next year or 2, but I'm just happy that I managed to save this one. Just move this to the side because I want to talk a little bit more about this. If you ever find an orchid of yours that has at the end of the rhizome, maybe the first bulb right at the end, starts to die away. Sometimes is normal. Obviously, the orchid can cannibalize the oldest pseudobulbs. But if you start to see another one and then another one, don't wait. It is better to just get it out the pot, cut off the end and see what's going on there and see if you have blackening inside or if it's actually just like the color of dead leaf. I'm trying to think of what the color is. If you look at a sheath, let's look at this one for example. If the inside of the bulb is a brown type of color like that, you're pretty much okay, and it's dry and not wet, then the bulb, the orchid has just cannibalized it. If it's black and wet and gooey and has a stink foul smell to it, you know you've got an infection, and you just cut until you see green, obviously sterilizing between your cuts. Then use cinnamon to seal the wound, and then obviously repot it up a few days later. So yeah, that's what I did with the Microcoelia Francis Fox because I didn't want to lose it. I took very quick and swift action, and then this is the result of that. It's, in my opinion, it's better to take the risk to set back a good orchid when you can see that those bulbs are going fast. It's better to just take the risk to set back a good orchid than wait and just see if it's an infection. It's never a good idea to wait if you get to that point and you can pretty much suspect that there is something going on. Then some more Paphiopedilums in the back there. What I also do, something quite interesting over here. Just want to show you. So these 2 orchids, this is a Cattleya Shinnoka and this is a Masdevallia. If you know your orchids, you will know that these need to have pretty much constant moisture and not dry out. So what I do is I put them in the cooler area of the greenhouse. I don't just do that because the orchids tend to dry out pretty fast, especially in summer here, as you can imagine, with 40 degrees Celsius. I put them onto a bed of gravel. In some cases, this one's a little different. This is a bed of sphagnum moss and gravel. And then I sit them on top inside another pot of sphagnum moss at the bottom. I use the gravel actually just to seal up the moss so it doesn't, so algae doesn't grow. And then they will constantly be wicking water from the bottom reservoir. So that's how I keep the orchids constantly moist, where they're not sitting in trays of water, but the water's constantly wicking up. It's kind of a method that I've been listening to a number of people, but I've also been developing myself with my self-watering system with geysers and with my Phalaenopsis. So I'm starting to introduce this into the greenhouse where I know orchids need a lot more water. And you can see they haven't dried out at all. They're doing very, very well. And it also doesn't allow them to easily get diseased and stuff because they're not sitting in water and the roots aren't smothered. Then, last few things I want to discuss. This orchid over here. Many of you will be aware of the Polistakia fragrance. This one was repotted in January last year. Sorry, it's not 2 years ago. So the story with this one, I was away. Greenhouse got really hot, like this 40 degrees Celsius, as you can imagine. It got heat damage. Lost almost all of the pseudobulbs. I think few remained, and then it got set back by, I think, a mealybug after that or something else. So it's been a real challenge with this orchid over the past few years, apart from last year. I managed to save this one, repotted up 2 years ago. As you can see, it's now got 2 pseudobulbs and a new growth. After this one, maybe I would say in the next year or so, it's going to start doing 2 pseudobulbs, because I know the species. So we're on our way to recovery. Very, very happy about this one, but it still stays in my cooler area of the greenhouse, because I am not setting this one back again. In case you're wondering, here and there you will see pots like this with nothing in them, just soil. I'm a very big terrestrial species collector. Love my terrestrial species, specifically South African and African species. And this is a Shinnoka angustipetala. At some point you would have seen that also in a video not too long ago. This one is now in its dormancy phase. The orchids died down to the ground, so that's an example. There's another one over here. We have this is a Satyrium odorum. So similar story, they're in dormancy at the moment. So that's why I have some pots here and there with just soil or gravel or something in them. Then a very interesting story that I want to talk about. This is my, I always forget this one again as well. Cattleya or antioch. This is the one with the orange flowers and beautiful spots. This one has started doing something pretty fascinating. Let's see if I can get in there. It's putting keikis out from the top of the cane. Haven't seen that before. I don't know if the species is prone to that. If anyone knows, you're welcome to comment below. But that was a very, very interesting one for me. I know I've seen it on online, other channels and stuff, where randomly a Cattleya will put out a keiki like this, but it's very, very interesting. But also having lots of new growth in the pot. This one's been putting out a lot of canes, hasn't flowered for me yet. I suspect it might be not enough light in that area of the greenhouse, not 100% sure. But I'm also concerned about the heat conditions for this one, so until I can find an ideal condition with light, it must just put out new canes, and I will slowly find a place that suits it. These are my Vander Collection, which you guys can see is growing. New one back there, which you will see at some point in a bloom video, I imagine. I'm not going to spoil the surprise, we'll just have to wait for that one. This one was a seedling I received quite a few years back. It's a blue flower, and I think it's getting close, maybe a year or two, and we'll start to see flowers on that one. So again, excited about that one. I received that from a friend. Just a note for you guys, something I did with my Bangkok sunset that I'm going to be looking at with a few of my other mounted orchids is to use filter wool for an aquarium. It's inorganic media basically, but to just put it around the roots so that it holds moisture, and then once you water the plants, they'll stay wet for a little longer, so they don't dry. Like, I mean, if you look at the similar situation, like this one was just all watered about 2 or 3 hours ago, completely dry. This one's still holding water. So something I'm going to be looking at in a while, but really, really good option. And the Bangkok sunset, there's no shriveling on the leaves. I love this condition. So yeah, another beautiful species in flower. This is my Shinnoka's fragrance. Beautiful flowers. This one was also in a blooms video recently. Thank you for watching, guys. Thank you for your precious time. Please give me a like if you enjoyed the video. It always helps me to know what you want and what you like. Please hit the subscribe button if you would like to see more of these types of videos. I'll put links to all the videos I mentioned through the tour. So keep well, stay safe, guys. Bye.